Here are my two modified Stryfes. These are actually for a commission. These have identical modifications, so I'm only going to go over one. I started with taking out the electronic and mechanical locks, which I would recommend for every Stryfe modification. The electronic and mechanical locks internally are unnecessary and just slow you down. You can't go as fast as possible with rate of fire, and those will probably cause jams if you run your gun hard enough. Then I actually replaced the stock motors with Extreme 180s. These are 180, not 130, which are the same sort of width, but they're longer. So I had to cut two holes into the shell. As you can see, these are the motors protruding from the shell there. And this little clear thing is a piece of 1/8" polycarb, which I cut around the same size as the motors, and that's connected with a 632 screw going into a standoff, which is connected to the gun from the inside. So it's a pretty clean way to protect the motors. This shield will protect the motors and the wiring from any damage if you drop the blaster or somebody hits you, something like that. I also coated the flywheels because when you upgrade your motors and you have upgraded batteries, you're probably going to get dart slippage, which is the flywheel spinning so fast with really thin, smooth plastic that when the dart goes through, this flywheel will actually overspin and just slip a little bit, which leads to inconsistent shots, poor accuracy, and you don't actually know how far that dart's going to go because it's dependent on the grip. So when you increase the grip by adding a coating, you will have more consistent shots, which allows you to actually shoot harder and further than without coating. And moving back, I also added a lower resistance switch, as you can see there. That's just a push button momentary switch, off, default, on when you push it from Radio Shack. And that's because the stock switch was giving me a whole bunch of trouble, and that usually happens when you run too much power through the blaster. You will either fry it out or just screw it up. So the performance of this Stryfe is phenomenal. It doesn't have any flashy external mods or anything like that, with the exception of the shield here, and that was a specific request from my client because he wanted it to be a lower profile, sort of a ninja blaster. And it got me thinking it's a very good idea for certain people to do this because, like me, I run a Straven or a very flashy mod because I like to paint my guns and I like to, when people look at them, to say, oh, that's modified. But from, 100 feet, when you start engaging zombies, you can't necessarily see that little shield. And if you're only holding a Stryfe, maybe a stock, maybe whatever, little gizmos, but a zombie's not going to be threatened by this blaster because, oh, it's just a normal Stryfe. So this blaster can be slightly more effective, and the external mods and the integrations and the paint's not helping performance. So this is as good as you can get a Stryfe pretty much, with very little flashy external mods. Not necessarily better or worse than flashy mods, but it is a new perspective, which I haven't shown on my channel. So I'll show you the blaster firing. 111, 115, 117, 115, 112 feet per second. So as you can see, the blaster is shooting very hard, very fast, and the rate of fire is unrestricted. It's true semi, and it's a very smooth trigger pull since I lubricated and filed certain areas, so it's very, very smooth and clean. So I'm really happy with the modifications. Again, this is a commission, so this isn't for sale or anything. It was already purchased. If you want more information on my commissions, link in the description box below to my website page. Yep, so something a little different. Hardcore internal mods, very little external, so that's new for my channel. I'm usually more flashy. But that's the modification. Hopefully you liked it. Thanks for watching. That's actually all of the internal mods. I've done these mods a dozen times now. Very happy with the performance. It's definitely shooting hard. To the paint job, I started with a black vinyl dye base coat, a green accent color, and then a silver.